Welcome, foolish mortals, to the Haunted Mansion.
On this week's show, we talk about Fright Fest at Six Flags Magic Mountain. You're listening to episode 117 of the Theme Park Duo podcast.
Prepare yourselves for an unforgettable encounter.
Hi, and welcome to the Theme Park Duo podcast. Grab your park map, churro, and hop in line with us as we take you on a coast-to-coast adventure through the world of theme parks, haunts, conventions, and more. Now, here's your hosts, Nikki and Gabriel.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another fantastic episode of the Theme Park Duo podcast. I am your host, Gabe. Nikki is a little absent on this episode, but we replaced her with an older, balder, different version of her from Park Journey, and that's Gregg.
Hey, Theme Park Duo family. Hope you're all doing well out there.
Welcome to the show. We've had you on a few times, it seems, as of recently. You come in clutch for the Theme Park Duo.
Hey, whatever I can do to help out some friends, I'm always happy to do it.
Well, thank you, sir. And today we are going to be talking everything Six Flags Fright Fest at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Now, the Halloween season is literally on the go as we speak. Everything is going. Halloween Horror Nights. We have Six Flags Fright Fest. We have Not Scary Farm. All the independent haunts and even home haunts are starting to rev up their game. So things are really exciting.
Yeah, it's definitely feels great to kind of be back and doing Halloween things again. Obviously, last year was kind of a wash when it comes to Halloween events. But
that's a very nice way of putting it.
Yeah, but it's funny. I was talking with somebody today, and we were kind of comparing our haunt calendars for the next month and a half or so, and it was funny because a lot of our events were kind of happening on the same nights that we were going to do different things like Reign of Terror and Zombie Joes and stuff, but just at different times. So we were trying to figure out a time we can like hang out and say hi and whatnot, and it's like we're going to be at these places at the same time. But yeah, it's hard, trying to visit all of these events and, cover them for our respective blogs, and then also kind of hang out and see friends that we haven't seen in, 18 months or almost 2 years in some cases. So
yeah, it's very difficult.
Yeah, it is. But, we've run into each other a couple times at Scary Farm last week, and it was kind of in passing because we were kind of doing our different things, and I think we just hit things at different times, and that seems to kind of be what's happening with a lot of our friends. We did Scary Farm on both Thursday and Friday, and Friday was definitely more chill because I had kind of already done all of my theme park blogging stuff on opening night.
You can put the phone down for a second, actually soak it in for a moment, as opposed to being concerned about getting pictures and videos and all this stuff.
Exactly. It was nice to kind of just go through everything and just enjoy it. But so Friday night we kind of hung out with some friends that we hadn't seen in far too long most of the night, which was great. They're kind of our haunt friends that we do a lot of the smaller haunts with. So that was really awesome. But yeah, it's just it's been kind of fantastic. We've done, like I said, we've done Horror Nights twice, we've done Scary Farm twice, and then now obviously I've done Fright Fest twice, both on opening night and then on last weekend's media night.
Yeah. And and people who are listening, like, I'm sure you're like hearing us slightly complain about being busy and all this stuff, but like that's kind of the nature of like what we do as blogs and websites is we're constantly inundating ourselves with these events and trying to cover them so everyone can see like the photos and the videos and kind of get an understanding of what these things are. And inevitably we just kind of overload ourselves. Like, I don't know about you.
We're not complaining. I'm not, it's not a complaint at all. I'm thrilled to be doing it. Yeah.
It's a happy problem to have.
First world theme park blogger problem.
And I'm totally good with that. But I don't know about you, man, but like my calendar feels way more insane than it used to. Or is it like, or am I just not used to it anymore? Because it just feels absolutely bonkers.
I think it's both. I think, because, we had a certain schedule that we had, and our schedule has changed at least, half a dozen times, if not more.
It flexes. It definitely flexes.
So like, for example, we were going to do Howl-O-Scream at SeaWorld next weekend on the 1st or the 2nd of October. And now we decided we're actually going to do it this weekend.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we're going to actually drive down to San Diego on Saturday and do that this weekend because we weren't able to do media night. And then, we've got, Ventura County Fairgrounds, and then we're doing Haunted Hayride the day after that on the 1st.
Yeah.
And then I think we're going back to Scary Farm on that 2nd because my son is actually going out to Canada on the 4th for a couple weeks. So we wanted to take him to Scary Farm before that. So yeah,
how nice of you.
Yeah. And then, of course, at the end of October, I'm getting my wisdom teeth out. So that kind of
yippee skippy.
Yeah. So that kind of, and of course it's like Halloween weekend. It's like the Friday before Halloween.
True horror. The true horror is slowly approaching.
So unfortunately, our Halloween weekend will probably not consist of any theme park haunts this year. But
screw that, man! Go all hopped up on goofballs. It'll make it even better.
That's what I keep telling my wife, that like I'm like by Saturday and Sunday I'll be ready. Let's just do it. Let's just go for it. I might bring a whole new element of being scared. Maybe no tooth fairy type mazes or anything like that.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea to avoid those ones.
Yeah, I think by Sunday, I think by Halloween night, I might actually be okay, and at least to do go to Universal for a few hours. Since we do have our frequent fear passes, just to kind of do something. But we'll see. We'll see how I feel.
Yeah, no. We'll definitely play it by ear and don't force yourself to go to any of these things.
Hey, you know what? If I just got to stay at home and watch scary movies all weekend, I'm actually kind of okay with that, because usually by that time of the season, you're pretty burned out anyway. So
very burned out.
I'm actually okay with that this year.
Even after this last weekend, I was like, oh my God, this is what it's going to be like for like a whole nother month, which is a fine problem to have.
Yeah,
it just
again, not complaining, but yeah, it's a good problem to have. Yeah, I mean, I think between Thursday at Scary Farm, we did Disneyland on Friday during the day. We did Scary Farm on Friday night, and then Fright Fest on Saturday. I think it was almost like a full marathon basically that we walked over 3 days.
Yeah, you guys did some insane walking in that time, and I did Scary Farm on Thursday. I did Scary Farm on Saturday, which is the reason why I didn't go to Fright Fest, and which is the reason why you're here in the first place, because I made those plans well before Fright Fest had said, like, hey, this is the date we want you guys to come out. So I had somebody else, our good friends Brent and Ray, another amazing duo, do the coverage that night at Six Flags for Fright Fest. So that's kind of the gist of that situation. And I have 2 nights of Scary Farm back to back this week, Saturday and Sunday. One of them with somebody who's never been, which now this is twice this season that I've taken somebody who's never been.
That's always so super fun.
It's a freaking blast to take somebody to any of these haunts for the first time, just to kind of see their eyes open. And for Brett and Renee, the ones who covered this event for the blog, they'd never been. So, they were kind of thrown to the monsters, no pun intended, to cover this event and try to traverse it and figure it out, which I tried to square them up as much as humanly possible. But like when it comes to these things, you're kind of all over the place and it's kind of hard to predict. So I tried to set them up as best as humanly possible. But
yeah. And I mean, Magic Mountain is such a huge park. It's very, especially if you're going there for the first time at night during a Fright Fest. With crowds and things. Yeah, it probably wasn't the best. It's hard to kind of navigate that park if you don't know.
It's a weird first impression. It's a weird first impression.
Yeah.
So, but let's waste no more time. Let's jump into this. Let's talk a little bit about the scare zones for 2021 at Six Flags Fright Fest at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Let's start with the very first scare zone as you walk into the park. That's Demon's Door. Welcome to hell. Be prepared for your mind and body to be taken over by the evil spirits that await you. I've always adored the idea of Demon's Door being the entry scare zone. For some reason, it just feels perfect, and the energy of these guys really helps set the tone for the entire event.
Absolutely. Yeah, the talent in here has always been really great. They used to do like a pre-scare dinner thing a few years back, and like it was always the Demon's Door monsters that would be out. We actually did an event at Fright Fest 4 years ago, maybe now, and like for our dinner, like the Demon's Doors monsters were there along with like Tweety and Bugs. It was actually pretty awesome.
That's so
but
odd.
Yeah. But I mean, if you've ever been to Fright Fest, they're actors and their monsters, they get a little bit more freedom in their scare zones than a lot of other events.
It
So
definitely
they
feels more along the lines of Knott's in terms of style and what they're
yeah,
allowed to do.
but they'll also, they have dialogue and things like that. They'll take pictures with you. Some events they won't allow you to take pictures, with their monsters in the scare zones, things
Yeah.
like that. But they'll do selfies with you and all kinds of stuff. So it's definitely a very different kind of atmosphere. And because Fright Fest doesn't close before, the park doesn't close before Fright Fest starts, you still have a lot of, smaller children and things, at the event for good or bad. But they'll, if there's kids that are kind of frightened, they'll kind of get down and talk with them, and
Yeah, they'll
it's
approach
kind
them
of
softly for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. So it's kind of a different vibe. But yeah, the monsters in Demon Doors are always great. The lighting there, I think, is fantastic.
It's that black light
Yeah,
paint and everything's really glowing.
yeah. And
So,
I will say the one thing that kind of takes away a little bit of it is that's where you get all of your Fright Fest wristbands and things. So there's like long lines for the
yeah.
wristbands, and there's long lines for the funnel cake right there. So it kind of takes away a little bit of it. They don't really get a whole lot of room to kind of, especially early in the night, later in the night when kind of everybody's already got their bracelets and things like that. Then they definitely have a little bit more room to kind of roam and do things. So it just depends. I always kind of save that scare zones to the end of the night, so we'll kind of skip that when we get there, and then we'll do our loop and come back around to Demon's Door, 10 or 11 o'clock when it's kind of everybody that is in the rest of the park in the front area is not as bad, and it's always pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's not inundated with people trying to take selfies. You actually have a moment to kind of absorb that environment. Because the one thing that I really like about Fright Fest personally is the scare zones. I actually think the scare zones are pretty dang good. Additionally, I think that the makeup is unbelievably outstanding. Scott Ramp and the Scream team has created some incredible prosthetics for this event, and
Yeah.
those really help set Fright Fest apart from the rest.
Yeah, I mean, I again, not to play favorites, but I think as far as like the makeup is concerned, I think Fright Fest, I don't think there's an event, at least in Southern California, that kind of touches them as far as the makeup of their makeup,
No,
right?
yeah, no, I
It's
completely agree.
there some of the mazes, some of the monsters, you'll see the latex masks and things, but if you're in a scare zone, you're pretty much in 30 to 45 minutes of makeup. And I actually got to go up there again. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago now, and actually
Yeah,
get
I'm so
made
cool.
up.
I'm Greg. I get to be in the
Right.
scare zone.
I did. Well, actually, I was in a maze, but they spent like they basically, I'm a blank canvas. So, the bald head and, it's a blank canvas when it comes to a makeup artist, and they just went to town on me. And it was amazing. I got to actually talk with Scott a little bit on Saturday at Fright Fest. And, this year they're doing things a little bit different. They used to, if celebrities would come to Fright Fest, they would let you go back and tour the where they do the makeup and things, but because they're doing it all outside now, because of the pandemic, obviously they're not
Yeah,
allowing anybody kind of back there to see what's going on. So it's a little bit of a different thing this year.
feel. It's a
It's
different
a
feel
different
to it.
feel. There's less talent this year. All of the events have struggled with recruiting of scare actors
Yeah,
and things like that. So
the hiring issue seems to be a SoCal wide, US
it
wide
is.
problem
Yeah.
for all these parks and events. So
Right, but even though some of the scare zones and mazes had less talent in there this year, the talent that is there, I mean, they're giving it their all. And
yeah,
they just like we were talking about, that we're happy to be back at these events. So are the people that do this every year in and year out. They're thrilled to be back and doing this.
yeah, no, you could definitely tell, especially after having gone to Horror Nights and Not Scary Farm, you could tell that the energy seems to be higher than it would normally be. And I think that's just because all these people who come out and put their bodies on the line to scare people are just that excited to be back at it and just roaming around in the fog, scaring the living crap out of people, which is what I want out of the event. I want them to be that jazzed about it because it makes a difference in the overall product. And you could feel it. I felt it at Horror Nights. I felt it at Scary Friend. I'm sure you felt it here. all the monsters
Absolutely.
are just
Yeah.
pumped. I follow all of them on Instagram.
Exactly.
Fright Fest Fluffy, or Lorraine, and like all those people, like they're talking about how excited they are. Or the
Yeah.
Exile Bros over in City Under Siege.
There's this
All of
pent
them
up
are
energy.
so
There's this
pumped.
pent up energy in this. Like it's like a release for everybody, and it's amazing.
Yeah, so it's really cool to see it all kind of happen again. So, and Demon's Door, once again, I really, really like it. And to kind of circle back what you had said before, I agree, hands down. I think that Six Flags Fright Fest probably has the best prosthetic work out of any SoCal event. I think that each particular SoCal event does something like particularly well. Like Horror Nights, you're not going to go anywhere else to be put in the middle of a movie. Scary Farm, probably some of the best scare zones and
Right.
originally created IP in park for mazes and scare zones. And then Fright Fest, I feel like it's the damn prosthetics. Like they are so
Yeah.
impressive.
Like you said, everybody has their specialty, so to speak. They all do kind of the same thing, but you know, but like you said, and you called it 100%. That's how I would have worded it perfectly between those three, major theme park events.
Yeah. So moving on from Demon's Door, let's move on to one of my particular favorites, and that's Nightmares, a twisted fantasy. This evil nightmare has never been so edgy as your favorite bedtime stories take on a new and twisted tale. Once again, this is another scare zone that uses that blacklight paint aspect, less demony and more whimsical fantasy, still with a very dark edge, but just not as it's not as creepy, if you will, I guess, overly creepy. Like there's still some odd things going on here that give you the heebie jeebies that for me, like that lasts a little bit longer than the jump scares. But this
Yeah.
is also the home of some of my favorite characters that are interactive, that aren't just coming up to scare you. There's like this whole thing. And I just mentioned her a little while ago, Lorraine. She plays she's a witch here,
Yep.
and it's her favorite thing is to talk about chunky pumpkin lattes and approaching you with this foot, and it has like a
Yeah.
shoe on it, and this whole thing. Like there seems like there's this whole backstory happening
There is.
that we're not privy to, and she just kind of pulls you into her world.
It's amazing. Like every year she has, like you said, she has this story and she'll come up with, this script. And, a couple years ago it was, she's, putting your hands in the stew. And this year it was, she's going to wax off my eyelashes. And, so every year we always, for years and years, we always had story time with Lorraine, and we would always post it on our, on our YouTube channel. And so this year obviously was no different. And it's funny, like to know, we've gotten to know a lot of these, actors outside of their Fright Fest persona and their onstage persona. And she's just like the most gentle, kind,
she's the sweetest woman in the
person
world
you ever meet.
She plays freaking Mrs. Claus during Christmas at Six Flags, which I find is the funniest thing in the world.
It is. But then you just put her in this makeup, and it's like it's the transformation is amazing. It's so fun, and it's lighthearted. It's not, there's no ill, there's no bad intentions, there's no ill will. It's just super fun, super funny. And even some friends of ours that were with us on Saturday night that hadn't been to Fright Fest at Magic Mountain since like the early 2000s, and obviously Fright Fest has changed a lot since then. And he's like,
different.
wow, he's like, this character is just so amazing. And the scare zone, the entire scare zone, the props in there are great. You got like the evil flowers and the mushrooms, and then the other,
the skulls and the sunflowers are probably like my favorite little prop in that whole
amazing
area.
Props. Yeah.
And the thing is that like there's this hierarchy going on in that scare zone too, because like you have characters like Lorraine that aren't overtly scary. It's more creepy, but then you have other ones that are a little bit more fast that'll approach you from behind when you're not expecting it.
Correct.
So you have a very nice variety of scares and spooks inside this scare zone, which at least to me makes it stand out from the rest.
It absolutely does. And just the area where it's at in the park, there's a lot of overhanging trees. So even without a scare zone there at night, I mean it's pretty dark in that in the normal summertime at night in that area. It's still pretty dark. And I've visited Magic Mountain, all hours of the day for different events, and there's always raccoons running around and things like that in that area of the park too.
By the way, for everyone listening, Gregg essentially lives at Six Flags. Like he knows this place like the back of his hand. Like this is his thing.
Yeah, I've been a season pass holder at Magic Mountain since I think 1986.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
You should just get in for free at this point.
I should.
Oh my
Yeah,
God, it's Greg. Let him
if
in.
anybody from Magic Mountain is listening to this, I've paid, what is it, 10, 20, 35 years of season passes at this point. So it's time for me to get in free for the rest of my life.
I mean, they're still very cheap.
Oh yeah,
So
no,
they're still very cheap.
I'm more than happy to support the park, obviously.
Oh, of course. I mean, like, I think that's the biggest thing. But yeah, so moving on from Nightmares of Twisted Fantasy, let's talk about Exile Hill. The dead have risen and are looking for new souls to take on this dark and sinister hill. So this one is definitely a lot more of the traditional scare zone that people would probably think of when they think of a scare zone at a haunted event. And I think that this kind of fits perfectly up there next to Willoughby's. You know, you have characters that kind of belong in that area, and the tone is much more sinister. And this is the home of Innocence.
Yeah, another one of those classic Fright Fest characters that you're only going to find at Fright Fest. Unlike Lorraine, I don't know if I've ever seen Innocence outside of her makeup. She is never out of character ever. She doesn't, but like you can try and get her out of character as much. She is so amazingly good. But yeah, but also in Exile Hill, you've got the sliders up there, things like that. And again, it's a very dark area. There's not a whole lot of props or anything up there, but again,
there's a isn't there a hearse?
There's a hearse
There's
usually
a
up there. It's
there?
down. It's actually, the hearse is actually down in the dead zone this year by West Coast
Okay.
Racers. Yeah, so
Gotcha.
they did actually move it down there. But yeah, but again, because of where it is in the park and the kind of natural setting of it and the trees and things like that, you don't really need a whole lot there. Obviously, you've got the fog and all that stuff going on there as well, and then obviously some amazing lighting by their amazing lighting director, who we also know. So, yeah, a lot of really great stuff up there in Exile Hill.
Yeah, I honestly don't think there really needs to be a whole bunch of props, especially given like I don't even know what they would put there for that to make sense. If anything, like I feel like they were trying to pigeonhole something there, it would stand out, and not in a good way. I like letting the environment kind of speak for itself.
I mean, and it's called Exile Hill, so I mean, it's really everything. They're just exiled. It's not. You don't really. Less is more in this case, I think.
No, I completely agree. And allowing kind of the actors just to do their thing really works here. And for anybody listening, like if you've never experienced Fright Fest or you don't know who Innocence is, her scare tactic is nothing like I've seen at any other park, at any other monster has done. Like literally nobody. She will walk towards you so slowly. And at first you're like, haha, she's walking towards me. That's kind of funny. And she continues to do it. You're like, okay, cool. And she continues to do it.
It's very unnerving.
It's so unbelievably unnerving. And she doesn't blink. And sometimes she'll slowly get to the ground and crawl towards you. And it just makes your frickin' skin crawl.
It does. And, it's funny because, I mean, I've talked to, people who work at, Fright Fest and other events, and they, to a person, they're like, Innocence is like the holy grail of like, that's what they all aspire to. Like, that is what they, they aspire to be, that kind of iconic thing, so you think of like all these icons for like other events and things like that, that events have created. She's created her own icon, and that's really rare in this community, and it's to be applauded. And every year she just does not disappoint at all. There's a reason why she's on the map. There's a reason why she's got a new scene in one of the mazes up there. Whenever they have like a panel at a convention, she's always there. It's just, there's a reason why, because she's just that iconic and that good.
Yeah. And speaking of that, like I want to see more of these monsters put onto merch. I want to see them on the maps. I want to see them on literally like mugs, t-shirts. I want this stuff on merch so bad. Because for me, Fright Fest, when I think of Fright Fest, I immediately think of the clowns from City Under Siege. I think about Innocence. I think about Lorraine. These are iconic characters to the park, and I want to see them get their
due.
Get their due, get their time in the light.
No, I'm with you. Yeah, the first weekend that I went, I just did the scare zones and then the merchandise. And I will say they have a lot of really great, merchandise at Fright Fest this year, but it's just kind of generic Six Flags.
Yeah.
And I
It's
just
always
like
that. It's
it
always
is,
that.
and it's not just for Fright Fest there, and that is one of my big, overall overreaching things with Magic Mountain is, they don't celebrate the park enough. So yeah, I'm with you. I think that it would not only be amazing for those characters to get their due, but it would sell. Like it would totally sell. And I really hope one of these years they kind of branch out and do some new. I mean, Knott's has done it with their 100th. I mean, their nostalgic merchandise is just flying off the shelf. So I'm really
Yeah.
hoping one of these years Magic Mountain kind of goes that road as well.
And I mean, even Natsu started putting monsters on merch, like too. They released tumblers with Otis and Gecko and Ghost Town Street's Death and the Bride all over it, and people were buying it up really quickly, including myself, because I like having the reminder of the monsters that I have really good interactions with. And for
Absolutely.
Fright Fest, it's Innocence. It's the Exile Bros over in Siege Under City or City Under Siege. I want to say under or Siege Under City. I don't know why I always want to say that. City Under Siege. But anyway, beating a dead horse here. But I want to see more of that in the future. Moving forward, let's talk about Territory Twisted. Steam spewing mechanical beasts relentlessly hunt down their victims. It's a very short and sweet statement. This is over by Twisted Colossus, which is not really a shocker there. This one is out. This has been there not super long. This was new. Was it like 3 years ago or something like
No,
that?
I
Three,
believe
four
I
years
believe
ago?
it showed up the first year at Twisted Colossus, so that would have been 2016.
Oh my god, time flies.
Yeah,
Oh my god. Yeah, but I don't mind this one. I like that there's a lot of props and things
a lot
around.
of props. Yeah, a lot of really good looking props in this area.
It just feels like the area is so open that it's difficult to walk through and get a scare.
Yeah, not only that, but you can't really walk through it because it goes to a dead end.
Yeah, there's
Um,
nothing at the other end of it other than
right,
rides.
right. Other than the
Scream
Colossus and
and
Scream, yeah.
yeah, Scream and Twisted
So yeah,
Colossus.
so it kind of it you just can't flow through it like some of the other ones. But like you said, there's some amazing props in here. The lighting in the scare zone is probably some of the best at the entire event. As far as just using the space. But yeah, maybe one day they'll actually connect it to some other part of the park, and you can actually hopefully expand it somewhere else.
Yeah, I actually think that Territory Twisted could do well somewhere else in a different space. Unfortunately, the theming of it kind of only fits there. But I think that the space is just a disservice to it in general. Moving on from that, one of probably the most famous scare zones from Fright Fest, and that's City Under Siege. The unruly clowns are loose again and running rampant in the streets of DC Universe. And this, to me, like I said, is the most iconic because at least the imagery of the clowns themselves have so much character. And when I think about it, like this, to me, screams Magic Mountain. It's the long chin, the high cheekbones, the big brow, and the long skinny nose. And most of the clowns there have a variation of that. And it's probably my favorite place to go because you have the clowns that end up being inherently silly and humorous because they're clowns, but they are so unpredictable. They're so fast. They're sliders. They're all over the place, and they have a slider show. So there's so much to kind of wrap up in City Under Siege.
Yeah, there really is. I mean, it's and then just you got the lasers, and you've got all the movement from the attractions there. You've got Batman and the Flash and Wonder Woman.
And
this.
Green Lantern. Oh, sorry, wait.
Oh yeah, no, not
Sorry. My
anymore.
bad. My bad.
But I was just gonna say, with the construction that's going on in the area, it is a little bit smaller this year,
Mhm.
because they've got walls up around where the pizza place was at this point. So it's a little bit smaller this year, but it obviously does not take away from anything. And they haven't really put any of it. They used to have like the arch with the lights and things like that. They didn't have that this year either, again, because of construction in the area and things
Yeah.
like that. But it didn't really take away from the impact of the scare zone at all. You've got the booming, heavy metal music in there. You've got, the Calliope music that pops up once in a while. They get their balloons. They've got their little air blower things. Like you said, they're just completely unpredictable, and you never know what's going to happen with
They're
them. And
freaking crazy, man.
yeah,
These clowns are crazy. And honestly, obviously I wasn't there, but in my mind, if the zone is slightly smaller than it typically is, I would assume that that might actually help the end all product just because there's less room for people to roam around and less spaces for those clowns to go, inherently allowing them to kind of go through the crowds a bit more and causing a little bit more frights. The only thing I could kind of attribute it to was when Hang Time was being constructed and like Boomerang was being taken down over in Carnival, and there was a pretty large construction wall that really took a lot of space out of Carnival, and a lot of people were concerned about that zone kind of losing a bit of its personality because of that. But it inevitably actually worked because it just made it more condensed, and it felt like the cast was ever more present. So I
yeah,
feel like that would be the same situation here.
yeah. And in some other area, it might not be such a good effect, but with City Under Siege, these are the same. It's the same scare actors for the last, God only knows how many years, a lot of years. So I mean, they know each other, they know their area,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
So it doesn't really lose any of the oomph, so to speak,
And this
of
out
the
of any of the zones has the most umph.
yeah, absolutely.
So, City Under Siege, like if you're going to Fright Fest, you have to spend some time here. And I'm going to admit something. I am a Decayed Brigade slider fan through and through. I have shirts, I have hats, bags. I am a fan of the Decayed Brigade. But the slider show that is put on in City Under Siege is probably one of the best slider shows that I've ever seen.
Yeah,
It
it's pretty
is
amazing.
it's high energy. The slides are fantastic, but not only that, they do it to a synchronized soundtrack, and it's just so freaking impressive. When I saw it in 2019, I went up to some of the Six Flags crew, like wearing their black shirts with Six Flags on them, and I told them more of that. That was so, and I said this to them. I was like, that was so effing cool. This is something special because it was so damn good.
Yeah. And speaking of, and it's not just the City Under Siege monsters. You got some Demon Door
Yeah.
monsters come out for that as well. And then one of the other things I'll mention too that's kind of unique with Fright Fest, I didn't know if we were going to go there, but at the last hour that the Fright Fest is actually open, all of the monsters from all of the scare zones actually congregate in Demon's Door. So basically you're going to see all the different monsters from, all the different scare zones we've talked about all in one area for the last hour of the night, just as people are leaving. And it's crazy. So,
It's kind of cool.
Universal's got their chainsaw chase out, kind of the same kind of thing, but this is kind of, Six Flags variation of that. And it's really cool and really, really, it's a nice capper on the night.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And then let's move on to the last returning scare zone, and that's Witch's Lair. Wicked witches will cast a spell on all who dare to enter. Beware of cauldrons, broomsticks, and black magic. I really liked this zone when it debuted, and having kind of like this almost open gauntlet for people to kind of traverse and kind of explore slightly without it being, like a forced gauntlet or anything. Like if you want to go in there, there might be some witches hanging in some of those corners, and it's almost like they're waiting for people to go in so that they can kind of entrap them in it and have some fun with them.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and again, this scare zone was definitely smaller this year. They did have the little
Oh,
gauntlet
really?
thing, but because of construction, again, in that area, it
Is
is
that the construction
definitely
that's happening where not Riptide? I almost said
where
Riptide.
Tidal Wave was. Yeah,
Tidal Wave, yeah.
yeah. So basically, the construction goes from DC Universe all the way to Metropolis, where the witches scare zone was. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, so it's still there. I mean, it's got the gauntlet, but again, it's definitely smaller this year. But it'll be interesting to see what happens next year because from what I understand, they're actually going to connect those two areas. So I
Huh.
wouldn't be surprised to maybe, hopefully, kind of see City Under Siege get bigger next year,
I wouldn't be mad about that because
and
I
then
actually think
maybe
that they
move the
deserve it.
yeah, and then maybe move the witches to like the area by like Bugs Bunny World where there's not really anything right now. So I wouldn't actually be too mad at that. I think, and that would not only give City Under Siege more more room, obviously, but also basically the park would be one big scare zone at that point. So
which
we'll
is
see
what
what
we want.
happens. Yeah, which is what we want.
So, moving on from Witch's Lair, let's talk about some of the new stuff for 2021. So, the first new scare zone is Terrorizing Dark Developments. Your worst nightmares rise up from the depths of hell and prey on the innocent who dare to enter this haunted cemetery. Beware the dark developments that could haunt you for all eternity. And correct me if I'm wrong, but this is on the hill coming down from Viper and X2 down to the New Revolution, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So again, the lighting here is amazing. They've got some cool props in here. I will say, they should have just called it Terrorizing. It didn't need the dark developments tagline.
I'm confused by that part of it.
It could have just been Terrorizing. But again, it's a great area. But there weren't a whole lot of monsters in this area. I think I did say at one point when we were walking up there on Saturday that they should have sliders sliding all the way down the hill, and one of the monsters says, "Oh, I would love that." But again, of course they would. Again, and I said in our own review of Fright Fest and some of the other events, everybody, as far as having enough talent and things there, everybody gets a pass this year. Because as of 2 months ago, who even knew that events were going to be happening?
I mean, I'm just happy we have anything.
Exactly.
So I let a lot of things slide.
And that's kind of what I had said to a few people. Like, this year, everybody gets a pass. Everybody gets a free ride this year. I'm not going to ding. Not going to talk ill about not having enough talent. Things like that. Next year it'll be a different story. But
I think it's worth saying, letting people know, like, hey, there's clearly a staffing issue, not attributed to the parks. Like, it's not their fault.
Absolutely
this is
not.
A thing.
This is a thing that, and again, it's not Fright Fest specific. It's everybody.
Yeah, it's literally every park.
And it's not just Southern California. It's everywhere. I mean, I'm sure like you, I've belonged to some groups, on Facebook with, all the haunters, and they're all struggling this year.
Yeah.
So, again, this year it's like, I'm just happy to be there. I'm happy to hang out and smell some fog and see some cool stuff.
Dude, I'm pretty much like putting my mouth to the fog machine.
Oh, dude, I was like breathing. That first night I was there at Fright Fest opening night, I just sat in Territory Twisted and just like sat in front of a fog machine and just like sucked it all in.
You know how many times I just ran into just plumes of fog and disappeared? It's probably
probably wasn't the best for my asthma, but I didn't care.
This area where Terrorizing is one of the areas of the park that Nikki and I consistently have said in the past, like, this needs to be a scare zone. And when we get to kind of the end of everything, I definitely want to bring up, to me, that it's a slight issue with the scare zones, but like, I'm finally glad that something is taking place there, because it's a perfect spot to kind of have little moments at least. And it seems like that's what it is.
Yeah, it is. And again, great lighting, lots of fog. The tombstones are great. Some cool props. But again, I fully anticipate this just getting better and better. After this year, next year it'll be even better than it is now. So yeah. It's definitely cool to have it there.
And the last new scare zone, and probably the one that I was most excited about, the one that they announced at Awaken the Spirits in August, and that is the Dead Zone. A renegade group of cyberpunk zombies feed on the flesh of unsuspecting trespassers. And this is located in the underground, right where their newest attraction sits, and that is West Coast Racers. This feels at home in that area, especially just like the style and the tone. But I love the idea of like these almost like glowing zombies of sorts. Like, it's just really freaking cool.
Yeah, I mean, again, the lighting in here is perfect. They've also got like a little gauntlet walkthrough area as well, because again, there's not a whole lot of trees or anything in this area. It's very open, so they definitely had to bring in some outside props.
It's very industrial in that area.
It is very industrial. I don't know if it really fits with the maze that's in that area, which is Aftermath. It doesn't, I would have loved if they would have taken that zombie glow theme into the Aftermath, and maybe that's something that's going to happen.
Aftermath 3?
Right. And then, yeah, I definitely, hey, I'd be okay with it.
Aftermath 3, Chaos going up again.
Yeah, there you go. The chaosener.
The chaos
Yeah.
It's
Um,
worse now.
yeah. And one thing I actually thought about as I was writing my review the other day too is one thing that I think would have definitely helped this area is it felt very 80s to me. And I think
Yeah.
like an 80s like electronica type soundtrack in this area, even though it's the underground, but with all the neon and stuff, it just felt very or even like an 80s like hip hop, kind of soundtrack, or electronica slash hip hop, something like that.
It's just
You
80s
know,
adjacent and just whatever
yeah,
it needs to take it to
yeah.
that
I,
next
I
step.
think that it would have really like bumped the area up a little bit more. And there's still, I mean, there's a lot of light in this area. At night, I think they, again, first year, you've got the light from all the stores that kind of drown out some of the scares. So it's really only, I only really saw monsters like in the area in front of Apocalypse. The rest of
Uh-huh.
the area didn't really have a whole lot. But again, I fully anticipate, in future years to kind of see that expand through all of the underground.
Yeah, pretty much like any one of these two new scare zones, I'm really anticipating for them to adjust and make better in the next couple of years. I mean, there's only been one scare zone that I know of that they had 1 year, and they're like, yeah, let's not do that again. And that was Damned in Disguise, Change Before Your Eyes, which was in theory a cool idea. It
It was
just
a
an
great
execution
idea.
didn't work out.
Yeah, no, it didn't work.
Um,
And yeah,
but yeah, I anticipate them to kind of work out the kinks in these things, and hopefully, like maybe they can put shades on the store windows to kind of help block out some of that light, so the environment still feels consistent throughout. Because that sounds like that's one of the issues.
yeah, yeah. Again, short timeline. I'm sure that's something that they've already kind of thought about. I mean, even like the first night that I was there, like one of the signs, the directional signs that show where to get to the mazes, it was in the wrong spot.
Uh-oh.
So I had basically sent them a message like, yeah, we put it on our list to fix. So like if I will say, like, when it comes to Six Flags, like if you see something that like it's in the wrong spot, or maybe something they could like tweet them and tag them, they read that stuff and like they will adjust it. So they might even read this and be like, yeah, you know what, maybe we should put some shades up in the windows, pull
Yeah.
some pull shades, and something like that, and like block out some of the light. Like, yeah, they definitely, if it's constructive, they will totally like take that into account and adjust things. So
Yeah.
um you know
And to kind of close out this section on scare zones, as we said at the top, the scare zones for me are what make Fright Fest. I'm coming to Fright Fest for the scare zones. I'm not coming for mazes in particular. I'm coming for the experiences that are inevitably created in each one of these that really is unique and different. And that's what makes it special. The one thing that I want in the future, and I've written this before, and they've kind of delivered in it a little bit at least, is more scare zones, expanded scare zones, so that there are less large gaps between them. Going from the entrance of the park uh, and making your way through past like a Full Throttle and getting past all that area, and then going by Bugs Bunny. There's nothing there all the way till City Under Siege. I
right,
want something there, even if it's like lighting.
right.
I want thematic lighting and music at least to
Yeah,
kind of
because they
carry
had
it.
like a zombie crossing there a couple years ago.
Yeah, and I guess that's
And
another one they had once, but I mean, like,
yeah, no,
even
they
then,
had
it's
it was
still
a
not
couple of years.
enough.
Yeah,
It needs to be
no,
more.
yeah, but like you said, even if it's just themed lighting and things like that, and they do shut down Bugs Bunny World at 7, which I actually think is kind of a mistake, since there's still kids in the park after 7.
Yeah.
Because they don't shut down. I think they should actually keep it open, but that's a whole other show, right
Oh,
there.
we'll talk about that at the very end, sir. So
Yeah.
you can put it in your pocket for a
All right.
conversation in about probably 4 hours. But yeah, no, I definitely agree, and yeah, I just want to see more of a development of those scare zones and expand these things, and or at least give the park some type of soundtrack, so that when you're going through those areas that are not scare zones, it at least still keeps you in that Halloween vibe, which I think is very, very important.
100% agree.
But moving forward, let's talk the mazes here at Fright Fest. Woo! I'm tired. Let's start with Aftermath 2 Chaos Rising. In the city of Ash, the spirits of the dead and the near dead inhabit the post apocalyptic city, releasing a deadly poison. This attraction is presented by Dove Chocolate. Which, by the way,
Get that in there.
get used to all of the mazes having something like that in it.
Hey, you know what?
Um,
If it keeps them going, then I'm okay with it.
dude, I don't know why they haven't done this, but why are they not giving candy out at the end of each maze that is based on whatever thing is sponsoring that maze?
I would love some Dove chocolate at Magic
It's
Mountain.
perfect because it's like
Yeah,
Halloween. It's like, oh, here's some
absolutely.
candy, Halloween candy. There you go.
Yeah.
You know, that's like the perfect thing to do, but they haven't done it. And it's like I feel like that's like the obvious idea.
I don't know if Aftermath really lends itself to candy at the end,
Hey,
but
anything lends itself to candy at the end.
that is very
It
true.
it really does if you think about it hard enough. Hey man, the dead and the near dead all enjoy Dove chocolate. Come on.
That's very true.
It's perfect. It's
No,
perfect representation there.
so anyway, yeah. So going away from chocolate and the rumbly and my tumbly. Uh, so yeah, I mean, obviously this maze is absolutely huge. And you know, I remember the first year that they did the original Apocalypse, or not Apocalypse, excuse me,
Aftermath.
Aftermath, in the old Batman theater, and that was like the first of this new wave of Fright Fest mazes, you know, of using new effects and things like that. And then obviously once they built Justice League, they moved it over in this area behind Apocalypse. And like I said, it's absolutely huge. So you kind of go through, and it's like you said, it's kind of a city. There's a lot of, if you remember the old Gotham City and the old Batman stunt show, there's a lot of props from those areas in there, which is great to see. I love actually seeing it in there. I will say again, this maze you have like soldiers, and then you have zombies, kind of going through, and soldiers are basically just like telling you where to go. And I'll be honest, I don't need the soldiers in this maze. I just need the zombies. I don't need soldiers basically yelling at me to keep moving through the maze. I just want to see a whole crap load of zombies coming after me and scaring the crap out of me.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, just make them like zombie soldiers. Like it's
yeah,
already like said and done with. These soldiers
yeah,
are screwed over. They're dead now,
exactly. Yeah,
and this whole place is overrun with monsters and zombies.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. If you want to make them like zombie soldiers, you know, like we've seen on like Walking Dead and stuff, I am totally cool with that. But yeah, I don't think that this maze really needs that. But that said, you know, it's got some great effects. It's got some great scenes. It's got fire effects. You know, it's got, you know, tall buildings. It's got like the hazmat scene, you know, things like that as well. So it you know, this is probably a good, you know, 7 to 8 minute maze to actually get through all of it. And it's always super fun.
Yeah, with this one, it always, like you said, I think it kind of bothers me that you have those people yelling at you, because I do think it would be better used, a better service to have these people already be monsters.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
overall,
if you're hiring maze talent, just make them scary.
yeah, and I think overall, I think this experience really relies on the scope of the experience, and I think that at least leaves a lasting impression. I want to see this one evolve a bit, and I think this is going to be a general kind of opinion on some of these. I know that some of these
Yeah,
spaces did get some tweaks, but
yeah,
overall, I think that the idea of adjusting some of these things is going to be a common thread, and this is
yeah,
one of those mazes that I think needs a tweak. It
it
needs
does.
something different, whether or not that's Aftermath 3, you know, glowing zombies,
Hey,
or a completely new story idea. You
yeah,
know,
I mean, I think the first, you know, the first half of the maze is probably pretty solid, you know, until you get through like the before the hazmat scene. But yeah, I would love to see the second, you know, at least the second, the last third of the maze, you know, get a full revamp. And yeah, if it needs to have, you know, glowing zombies, I am totally cool with that. Radioactive zombies, let's do it.
I'm 100% down for that. Moving on, Condemned Forever Damned. Dare to step inside the horrific haunts of this dilapidated home where the walls are alive with the souls of those who once lived there, and unleash fury on anyone who enters. Presented by Twix. This
I definitely could have used a Twix at the end of this one.
this was new in 2019. If correct me if I'm wrong. In 2019, this was a new maze, correct?
Yeah, I want to say 2018. It was the
2018?
debut. Yeah, I want to say it had 2 years
Yeah, it
before this
was
year.
in 2018 and 2019, if that is true. Regardless of it, that before this, I thought that this was a very impressive maze. I thought that this maze was at least another example of the direction that Fright Fest was kind of going in terms of not only style but also details that inside the maze.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really great scenes in here. I will say that the maze is very dark. We didn't even post our walkthrough of the maze just because it was just super dark. So I definitely think some
Thematic
refreshed
lighting.
lighting. Yeah, I think some lighting can help this maze. But the talent in here was really great. There was, I think, maybe one thing that was kind of new, or maybe just something I had never noticed before. But yeah, you've got some tight spaces in there. You've got some multiple paths in this maze. And it's obviously, a condemned house that's pretty awesome for a themed of a maze. So yeah, I would again like to see some tweaks in here next year, namely just maybe some new lighting and things like that as well. But overall, I did enjoy this maze.
Yeah. And then moving on to the next one, we have uh, Ghostober presents Willoughby's Resurrected. The haunts of Ghostober take on dark visions of spirits, haunted artifacts, and supernatural investigations gone wrong. Brought to Fright Fest by Discovery Plus, the streaming home of Halloween. Uh, it's interesting that they put everything before the name of the maze.
Right.
It's not just Willoughby's Resurrected, presented by Discovery Plus, Ghostober. Like, you'd think
Yeah.
that people would probably think it's the maze is called Ghostober.
Ghostober, yeah. And honestly, they probably could have called it that because there was enough new stuff in this maze to actually it felt like an entirely new maze.
Yeah,
So
Willoughby's, at least in 2019, was one of those mazes where I was like, it's cool, but it needs to
right,
change.
yeah.
It just felt like a consistency for consistency's sake. It didn't feel new and fresh, and it needed it.
Yeah, it did. And it's funny because this maze is now this is its ninth year, and I think it would have been its 10th year if it wasn't for, obviously not going in 2020.
Yeah.
The first year that they did Willoughby's Resurrected, I took my son with me for a tour of this maze, and he was like 13, and now he's getting married. So yeah,
It's been
so
around for a while.
so that's how. And then obviously the original Willoughby's ran for like 15 years before they even updated that. So but I will say the there's at least 3 new scenes in here. A lot of new effects. They went through and tweaked the lighting and most of the maze, and it seemed like an entirely new maze to me.
Wow.
Even the facade is new. Which
Is it?
I
It
was
looked exactly the same.
no, it's definitely more like 3D. Like it's not as flat as it was
More of a
before.
facade.
It's more of a facade, yeah. And I honestly wish they would keep that up there all year because the rest of the year it's just a flat wall. Just like keep it up there. It's okay.
Yeah.
But no, this seemed like an entirely new maze, and it was actually our favorite. Our group of 4 or 5, excuse me. It was basically all of our favorite maze of the entire event.
Nice.
And in 2019 it was like one of our least favorites. So it just goes to show that taking some time and updating some things, even if it's an existing maze or existing property, you can tweak things and make them even better and improve them, tremendously from year to year.
Yeah, I was definitely disappointed in this one when I went through it. I felt like this one, more than most, at least in 2019, suffered from a lack of sound design. It suffered from a lack of lighting, or creative lighting, and it felt like the talent really wasn't given too much of a direction.
Yeah,
Uh,
and this year very 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 much the opposite.
yeah,
They've done a complete 180 in this maze,
that's
which is great,
great.
which is great to see.
Yeah, in 2018, I had an instance where I was walking down one of the hallways, and there was a door at the end of the hallway, and a guy with a chainsaw came out of the door, but he just was going ah, and he stopped screaming finally, and we were just kind of looking at him.
And what is a chainsaw guy doing in a haunted mansion?
I don't know.
But
Worst of all, it was an electric one, so it had an
Yeah.
extension cord attached
Yeah,
to it.
God. Yeah, and I will say, like, this year it feels like a haunted mansion. Like, it's not just a mishmash of like haunted things. Like, even some of the things that they were using with like screens and stuff, where they were using kind of generic monster screens, like they've redone that. There's actually an appearance of innocence in the maze
Oh,
as well
nice!
now.
That's
Yeah,
perfection.
yeah. So there's like a projection of innocence in the maze now as well. So they've definitely brought in that outside Exile Hill into the maze as well. And I would love to see that actually happen in a few different areas around the park.
Like, make an Exile Hill, like, really make them cross over.
Exactly.
Um, Moving on, let's talk about Red's Revenge. Enter the world of Red Riding Hood, but in this fairy tale, you and the wolf are being hunted by Red and her demonic minions. This attraction is presented by Snickers. Red, you must be hungry. Have a Snickers.
Yeah,
Um,
she must have been hungry because Red wasn't even there when we went through
oh
the
my god, she was
maze.
out trying to find a effing
For
Snickers.
Snickers. Again, this one had a couple of changes in it. The pre-show was gone.
It
Obviously,
doesn't
I
need
don't.
it. It
It doesn't
doesn't
need
need
it.
it.
It didn't need it, and I was actually like, "Wow, this is awesome!" And there was I think there was a couple of additional things in the maze that were kind of new, but again, I want to say there was maybe 4 actors in the entire maze.
Oh, that's not
And
good.
Red, the climactic scene with Red, she wasn't even there. There was the audio, but there was just nobody there. So
That's a bummer.
yeah, and I want to say this is the 5th or 6th year for Reds. I think it's time for something new next year. And again, as I said earlier, everybody gets a pass this year. I was understanding of them not having new mazes, but I think some of these need to be retired.
I mean, like at a certain level, yes, everyone's having kind of those similar issues. I do think that if you're going to have 4 people in a maze, just close it.
Yeah,
Just close it. You're pretty much like it's diminishing returns at that point. Like, yes, you have it open. Yes, people are being entertained. Yes, people are in line and you're keeping them out from other things. But at what detriment to how people view the event? And I think
yeah.
that is probably one of the most important things. You don't want people to think poorly of the event just because you decided, like, hey, we only have 4 people, we'll keep the door open anyway.
Yeah, I mean there was more blackouts in the maze than there were monsters.
Which, why not make them monsters? Anyway,
Right,
double their job up.
right.
But I mean, in terms of that, I do agree. I do think that the maze needs to be retired. Something new and different needs to be in this place. And you know what? A lot of the props that are in there can be used up over in Nightmares, A Twisted Fantasy, or whatever it's called.
Absolutely,
What is it
absolutely,
called?
they
It was
could.
called Nightmares of Twisted Fantasy.
Yeah.
I think those big kind of tree creatures can be
Hmm.
placed in the woods section of Nightmares and given a different paint job, and they'll fit perfectly. So,
Absolutely.
it isn't like they're going to be losing anything.
No, I agree with you.
So, yeah, Red's Revenge, maybe the last year for it revenging.
No more avenging for Red.
uh, Moving on, let's talk Sewer of Souls. Vanish into an underground world of lost souls and terrifying tunnels where evil oozes and creatures taunt. This attraction is presented by M&M's.
I don't want to sound like a broken record, but yeah, I think we saw maybe 4 monsters in here as well. But again, visually stunning maze. I love the colors in here. I love the theme of it. There's a new entrance this year, so they did change a couple of things. The first room that you go in is a little bit different this year.
Yeah.
But again, just wasn't enough. Wasn't enough people in there to give you a fright, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's just unfortunate because this is one of the cooler mazes, at least visually. Were they handing out the glasses for this one?
no 3D this year.
What?
Yeah, no 3D.
But that's what makes the maze.
I mean, honestly, I didn't miss it. I'll be, that was one thing I will say. I enjoyed walking through the maze just because it's visually appealing. I didn't miss the 3D in it at all.
I feel like even though I didn't go through it, I've been through it with the glasses on, and I've been through it without the glasses off, and I didn't go in it this year. I personally feel like it's a small detriment to the maze not having them, and the reason why is because putting those glasses on, those disposable like paper cardboard glasses, create blind spots that are really easy to get people
True.
when they're wearing them, as well as when you're wearing them. Yes, the painting and the colors and all that stuff are
Right.
starting to glow and kind of come off and create this 3D effect, which also just kind of messes up your vision. So if you were to have them off, you could see a monster standing there, as opposed to if you had them on, maybe you didn't see them as well. And you're even more susceptible to those scares. So I
But of
do
course, you
think
have
that
to
it
have the
has
monsters in the maze to actually scare you.
valid. Valid. But
Sorry.
I'm just saying that in general, I think that taking the glasses away is a small detriment to the attraction, and so is not having enough monsters in it as well. I mean, even though Sewer of Souls is probably one of the better mazes that they have at the event, if you're not going to have enough people staffing it, then don't have the doors open. Take the people out of Red's Revenge, put them in Sewer of Souls. Because
Yeah,
in general, I think Sewer of Souls is a better maze than Red's Revenge.
agreed. And I will say the first weekend that I was there opening night, Sewer of Souls was actually not open the opening night. So
Huh, I wonder why.
yeah, I'm not sure.
Maybe half the staff was sick, so
I guess.
then there's 2 people
Yeah.
working the maze. But moving on to the last maze at Fright Fest, and that's Vault 666 Unlocked. Demonic relics and obsolete oddities are locked in an abandoned vault in the dark and sinister antique shop. This attraction is presented by Three Musketeers. In 2019, I believe this was the maze that turned into whatever that movie was,
Yeah,
right?
Hellfest, was that it?
Hellfest,
Yeah.
yes, it was a
Yeah.
Hellfest maze,
Was it
and
2019 or 18?
I'm pretty sure it was 2019.
I want to say it was
I don't
18.
remember.
Anyway, I'm
I'll
not
look it
sure.
up, but like,
Yeah.
see, I'm almost positive that it was 2019 for that because I remember being really.
2018.
It was 2018.
Yeah.
Oh man, I remember being really mad about that.
You know, and then they did make some changes in 2019, and then I think there was a couple more tweaks this year. And I will say I actually really enjoyed Vault 666 this year. I will say other than probably Willoughby's, there was probably the most amount of talent in this maze. There was a lot of monsters in here. It was fully staffed when we went through. I had a great time in it. And if you
Yeah.
remember when this maze first started, it was kind of like an animal experimenty thing.
Yeah, where they were making
Yeah.
people human animal hybrids.
Yeah, and this one, I mean, honestly, it almost kind of reminded me a little bit of like a haunted, like Willoughby's Haunted Mansion. Like some of the scenes in it now are kind of like I don't know if the Vault 666 name really fits anymore, to be honest with you. Yeah, I don't, it doesn't match with the mazes anymore. But this was actually my second favorite maze of the night, after Willoughby's. Had a really great time in here. Again, a lot of talent in there. Got a couple of good startles in this one. Obviously, for us, you know, it's kind of hard to startle us at this point.
We're jaded.
But
We're jaded
yeah,
hunt
we're
goers.
jaded.
We're veterans.
It is what it is. But no, I actually really did enjoy this one this year. But again, I don't think that the name fits anymore, to be honest. They can come up with a different theme of it. Even if they don't want to change a lot in the maze, I'm okay with it. But I think it kind of needs a freshening up of the actual story, because there didn't seem to be any actual story anymore.
And the thing is that like over its different iterations, things are kind of left over. So now at this point, it's kind of this hodgepodge.
It is. It's a hodgepodge
maze, which, you know, if it works, it works. But from a story standpoint, from a maze development standpoint, it's not the best look. And I want these things to kind of excel as much as humanly possible. And looking at this now, like in 2019, I really liked it. In 2018, I absolutely, it was appalling. To call it a Hellfest maze when it basically resembled nothing from Hellfest.
No, it didn't. And I will say it's funny because I was putting together our update from Busch Gardens Tampa Howl-O-Scream today, and they actually have, and I think this is a really amazing idea, and I think it could actually really work at Magic Mountain for a maze, is they have a scare zone called the Junkyard, and it's basically props from like all their old mazes and all their old scare zones, like in one scare zone. So like you get to go. So if you've actually gone to the event like multiple years, you're going to see all of these, you know, recognizable props from Easter egg. It's like an Easter egg scare zone. I'm like, that is a freaking amazing idea.
That's a really smart idea.
I did. Yeah. So I'm like, maybe like Vault 66 can be like their junkyard. You know, they just, you know, throw all that stuff in there. And then you just have, you know, different monsters from these different old mazes and the different props from these different old mazes. And like each room is like, here's the Red's Revenge room. Here's the cursed room. Here's the Chupacabra room. You know, things like that. Like, I would actually really love that. You know, and I think that's a really brilliant idea that they've done. So maybe that's something that they can do with the vault, so to speak.
I'd like that. I'd be all game for that because I think it's for the nerds like us that can pinpoint all those things out. So overall, it sounds like the mazes all relatively either got like an upgrade or kind of just stayed the same. I'm glad that there was upgrades across like at all. You know, after, you know, skipping a year, I guess my expectation was things were probably going to stay the same. So the fact that things evolved in any way, shape, or form is a plus.
Yeah, and I don't, if you'll remember, the new attraction at Magic Mountain in 2020, they weren't building a new coaster or a new ride or anything. It was supposed to be Fright Fest and Holiday in the Park upgrades. So I don't think we got those,
No.
so to speak. So I'm hoping that's hopefully still on the budget for 2022, along with obviously the budget for the new coaster they're building. I don't know if we're going to get those enhancements. I guess maybe we'll see what happens with Holiday in the Park this year.
Yeah.
But it overall, again, the talent amazing. They're like I said, it's an off year for everybody. But the talent, not taking anything away from the creators, from the talent, from the makeup designers, from the staff, from the creative staff at Fright Fest, not taking anything away from them, because they all are very passionate about this event and they love it as much as we do, if not more. And overall, I think that they put their heart into the event as much as they could this year with the timeline that they had, and I'll always applaud that
Yeah, and
aspect of it.
they make this event, and they're the reason why we come back every single year. Regardless of whether or not we feel a particular way about a maze or a scare zone, we come back because of that passion that really it truly makes the event what it is. So
It does.
I'm happy to come back to Fright Fest year after year to see these monsters come back with the glimmer in the eye of like, oh, I'm going to scare the living shit out of these people, and I love
Exactly.
it.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and the last few things that I want to chat about really quickly before we end this podcast, but there are entertainment. There's entertainment and shows at the event. I know that Greg, you had mentioned that you didn't get a chance to see some of these things, or some of the shows weren't running quite yet. So just to kind of give everybody info on that, there is a new show called Dark Minds, which is experience the depths of darkness within your mind when a mentalist explores the unknown. There's also Grave Games, witness the dangerous and daring acts of crossbows and juggling with fire, which sounds pretty intense. And of course, you have the Slider Show. You have the Unleashed opening moment with all the monsters coming out of the area near Twisted Colossus, and then Voodoo Nights, which takes place on the stage over there by not Twisted Colossus, on the stage by Full Throttle, which that is like a pop-in area of the
It is.
park.
Yeah, it's a very
When
popular area of the park.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's popping too. Like people are like going crazy and dancing and having fun over there. And I would honestly, I want more of that kind of spread throughout the park. Like in some of the areas where there isn't a scare zone, maybe even if there's no scare zone, add maybe like some band or something, or just music. Like this really helps liven up that space, because from Demon's Door all the way to City Under Siege, there's nothing.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think more entertainment is a good thing. I know they used to do like a show in Bugs Bunny World a few years back. There's a stage back there.
Did they kill Bugs Bunny? Did they skin him?
I don't remember what it was, to be honest. I think it was kind of similar to like the drums show that they have at Knott's. It was
Ah.
something kind of like that. They also used to do up on Samurai Summit. They used to do like a Roadkill Cafe, which was like a cooking show that was like you would cook like body parts and stuff. It was pretty gross, to be honest with you. But yeah, maybe some more things like that. Again, I understand why this year they get a pass.
Yeah.
I'll say that again for the 10th time.
Yeah. So that's kind of wraps everything up for Six Flags Fright Fest at Magic Mountain. The last thing that I definitely want to talk about is let's talk about the prices to actually get in. So Fright Fest itself isn't a upcharged event. It's not a separately ticketed event. So if you have a ticket to Six Flags Magic Mountain, you can hang out until the event starts. Now, in order to get into the mazes, that is what you're going to have to pay money for. So, depending on the day, at least when I'm looking at it right now, so Friday, September 24th, it's only $19.99 in order to get a wristband to go into these mazes. On Saturday, it starts at $24.99, and I actually don't see it on later on in October. It goes up to maybe $30 to get into these mazes. But the fact that you get these scare zones for the price of admission to Six Flags in general is a pretty phenomenal price,
It
if
is.
not the best price around. Period. That's even with a Not Scary Farm season pass for like $120, no blockout dates. The fact that you get these scare zones for just a ticket to Six Flags is pretty phenomenal. And then
It
on
is.
top of that, if you wanted to get, say, front of line, the Fright Pass is it looks like that's an extra $20. Oh, sorry, that's something else. The Fright Pass is getting to the mazes. Fright Fest and Fright Pass is $94.99, so it's like an upcharge in order to kind of
Well,
get.
actually, the Fright Pass is like a season pass for the
Oh,
wristband. Yeah.
oh wow, it's only
Yes.
$20.
Or no, that's so yeah. So the Fright Pass is the one night. The $20
Yeah.
is the one night thing, and then you could actually add the $95 one that you mentioned.
Oh,
That's
it's
like
all season long.
it's all season long. Yeah.
Oh, that's
And
a
then like
really
the
good price.
Express is usually like 45, between 45 and 60
Oh,
for
there you go.
the
It's not
Express.
listed
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
It's not listed here, so I
Yeah,
mean
it's usually
that's
45 to 60. But yeah, that 90 or $95 like full season, maze pass is a pretty good deal.
yeah. So that kind of leads us to the last conversation that I want to have before I let you go. And this is the thing that I think you and I have talked about, everyone's talked about, something that I know that both of us agree upon and believe in our hearts of hearts. And that is Fright Fest needs to be a separately ticketed event. And a big part of that is because one, I think people would pay it, and I think that the money going towards the event will do really well for the event. But also, you have such a mixed bag of people at this event. Sometimes kids that shouldn't be at an event like this. Now, I'm not going to sit here and judge parents for it. I could judge them later, which, this season has seemed to have manifested more strollers and infants at these
It has. Yeah.
attractions than in
Yeah.
previous years. But Fright Fest has always kind of had that issue of the kind of very diverse clientele because of its non hard ticket event. And I think it needs it in order to kind of weed those problems out, because I do think it inhibits the event from reaching its full potential and kind of hurts it a bit.
It does. I mean, I will say, um, Saturday was the busiest I've seen anything since
Coming back to
2019.
everything.
Yeah, since probably Fright Fest of 2019. We've done Horror Nights. We've done Not Scary Farm, and there were both of them were crowded. There was people there, but it just was not a
Comfortable.
situation. It
It's
wasn't
not
comfortable.
comfortable.
No. And so if I will say, if you have the least a bit of anxiety about crowds or anything like that, I just honestly I can't recommend you going, like, at least on a Saturday night. So like try go on a Friday or a Sunday to the event. And I was even getting to the point where like I was concerned for like the monsters and the clowns in City Under Siege. There was just so many people, and like you said, there's strollers everywhere. There's little kids everywhere. So and they like some of the other Six Flags parks, like the Six Flags in New Jersey, they brought back
Yeah.
their reservations for Fright Fest
I think
to
it's
kind of.
needed. I
It
think it's
is.
needed.
It is, and I did have some conversations with their PR people about it on Saturday, because it was just you couldn't even walk through the park, and as soon as we got there, my wife's like, I don't know how long I can actually be here. We parked on the dirt lot at 5 o'clock or 4:30 when we got there. I mean, it was already slammed. So yeah, it's just it needs to be a separate ticket event, or they need to minimize the the amount of people that are there for Fright Fest, whether just giving wristbands and then everybody without a wristband has to leave by a certain time. I don't know what the solution is, to be honest with you, but it just, like I said, it was uncomfortable, crowded, and I think everybody who was there even covering, I think most people were gone by 10 o'clock. We were, and
And
usually
that's how bad it was.
yeah, it wasn't comfortable, and and yeah, I mean, like I was talking to some people from some other sites. We were texting, and like they were already on. By the time we were walking out the park, they were already at Universal using their frequent fear passes. That's
Oh my
they
god.
just, yeah. So it was, yeah. So and again, and I don't want it to sound like I'm just harping on Six Flags because I can. It's not. It comes from a place of love. Like I said, I've been a pass holder at Six Flags since 1986.
You care.
That it's so if I didn't enjoy the place, if I didn't like Magic Mountain, I wouldn't have been a pass holder for 36 years or 35 years or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it's just I see what the event can be and what it should be, and it's just as I said in my review, the event right now is 50% unsupervised teenagers and we all know what amazing patrons they are.
Oh yeah,
and
totally.
how much money they spend in the parks. It's
They
25.
come to an event to get scared and then act hard. Like, why are you trying to
Right.
scare me, bro?
Yeah.
Why are you trying to
Yeah,
scare me,
exactly.
bro? It's like,
And they're
dude,
just
shut up.
and they're doing their TikTok challenges, and they're doing this, and it's just, and that it's not safe. Then you've got like 25%, strollers and kids that are probably too young to actually be there.
Sorry,
Because
the way you said it made it sound like TikTok is not safe. Watch
I
out
mean,
from your children in
I
TikTok.
mean, we could do a whole show on TikTok. I think TikTok is like the next level in the downfall of society, but I'm not even kidding. Like,
Next up, we have
seriously,
old curmudgeon Greg talking about things
old
he
old
doesn't
man,
understand.
old man
Old
talks.
man Greg talks about things
Old
he
man,
doesn't
yeah,
understand.
I don't. You're right. I don't. I'll be 100% honest. And then you've got like 25% of people that actually are there to experience the event. So it's just weird mishmash of people that are there for totally different reasons. You've got huge food lines. You've got just it again. It really did. For lack of a better word, it took away some of our enjoyment of the event just because it was just so overly crowded.
Yeah.
And it's just and I feel bad for the people that are working there. Not just the monsters, not just the maze people, but the people in the stores and the security and the food and the write-offs. I feel terrible that it's just a sea of people that they're having to deal with all day and all night, and I think it's too much, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. There needs to be some type of way to kind of keep things in a nice orderly fashion because it sounds like it kind of got out of hand.
It did. I mean, and you've got your fire marshal limits. You obviously you only have so many people that you can have in the park, but
Yeah.
it was probably approaching that level to where it was at max capacity if it wasn't at max capacity.
Yeah.
And then like I said, you've got kids in the park and you've got no Bugs Bunny World. Things like so not only is it high capacity, or is it high crowds, but you're taking away capacity from some of the things. And like, one of the shows wasn't running yet, things like that. So, I'm hoping maybe once they get one of the other show up and running, it won't be as bad, but we want to go back and do the shows at some point and do the slider show, but it won't be on a Saturday. We'll probably go on like a Sunday, because on Sundays they actually do the slider show a little bit earlier in the evening.
Yeah.
Not at midnight. So we'll probably do that at some point. But yeah, I don't have any desire to go back on a Saturday, and I feel bad saying that. But it's just not something I'm comfortable with right now.
Well, I mean and unfortunately, that's just the truth of it, and that's kind of where you're at, and that's where I'm at. I don't think I would feel comfortable going into a park that's that crowded. I mean, I've been to Scary Farm on a Saturday, and it was, or at least over the weekend, and it was pretty crowded, but it wasn't ever a point where I felt unsafe or
Yeah.
I felt uncomfortable. I think this
And
weekend will be different because I'm going both days. We'll see how it
right.
goes, but
Yeah. But
the
I mean, we were there as media, so we, even though we were comped our express passes and things like that, I feel like we still owe it to, listeners of the Theme Park Duo podcast and the readers of our websites to be honest with our assessments, even if we are, hosted or whatever you want to call it.
I mean, tell SeaWorld that.
Yeah. Well,
Tell
I'm going there
SeaWorld
this
that.
weekend, so
Yeah, tell them when you're there. Be like,
that's a
Gabe.
whole.
Gabe
That's
was
a
just
whole.
trying to be honest.
Yeah.
I
That's a whole other
don't know.
podcast.
Yeah, that's completely different podcast. But no, you're 100% correct, and it's funny because somebody on Twitter recently was like, like you can't write a review if you're hosted and everything is free. That's bullshit. It's totally bullshit. You could write.
I think for some places that is probably kind of true. I think I did see that conversation. I think with Disney, I think it that almost kind of is true, but with other places, we've always been honest. There's been a couple of events that we've done over the years where we just basically, I'm just posting pictures of this event and not reviewing it just to be nice, just to be kind. But again, when it comes to like public safety, I feel like it's my duty to address it. And, if that means I'm being critical of the park, but the park knows how busy it was.
They're the thing is that
they were there.
They know exactly what's going on.
Yeah,
they know what they need to do. They know how to fix it. They're going to try to fix it. They're not dumb. So us sitting here saying like, hey, these are some of the things that we'd hope that they address. We're not sitting here saying Six Flags sucks. No, that's a completely different thing.
No,
we're sitting here saying,
we want
like,
people to go and have a good and safe time.
Exactly. And the thing is that, like, I want people to go support Six Flags.
Yeah,
I want people to put money back into the California economy. Especially
I want to say, you know what? You want to take your kids to Fright Fest, on a Saturday night. I want to say, yes, go for it. Have a blast. But honestly, I can't say that right now. I would say take your kids on a Sunday.
Yeah, I would say, like, if you guys if you're listening to this and you are not really nervous about crowds, like you're totally fine with those things, go for it. I think you're going to have a freaking blast.
Yeah,
if you are a little hesitant about crowds right now, especially given the environment of the way that the country is right now and the way our state is right now, if you're a little concerned, maybe try to avoid on a Saturday. It's the same thing that it has been the entirety of all these events' lives. It's Saturdays are going to be busy. It's going to be popping on a Saturday. If you want to go on a day that's not crowded, same rules apply as they did in 2018 or 2019, 2017, 16, 15, 14, 13, every other year. If you want to go on a day
always going to be the busiest.
Thursday, Sunday, maybe a Friday. Avoid Saturdays.
Absolutely.
But I think that kind of wraps everything up for Six Flags Magic Mountain's Fright Fest for 2021. Gregg, thank you so much for coming on the show and chatting about your experiences.
Of course, it is my pleasure. Anytime you want to have me, maybe next time I won't ramble on so much and it'll be an 1.5 hour podcast.
No, dude, this is great stuff. Honestly, like, I like it when we get into these conversations because, like, these are the honest, open conversations that I think listeners deserve. It isn't the, hey, it was really fun, go check it out, and just unhonest.
And it was really fun, and I would recommend you checking it out. Just again, not on a Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just the honest truth. There's a lot of really cool things at Fright Fest. There's a lot of really fun things at Fright Fest. Go for the scare zones because they're freaking awesome. A lot of the mazes had some really cool updates. The actors here at Fright Fest are absolutely amazing. So if anything, go because of that. Just be aware that some of these days are going to be pretty packed. So if you're uncomfortable, just keep that in mind. But I like having these open, honest conversations about these events because I think listeners deserve it. So I appreciate you coming on and rambling for 1.5 hours on our show. Nikki was like, "Yeah, you and Gregg can go at it. You guys can have your time.
Thanks,
so
Nikki.
Don't worry about it." So she's downstairs eating Oreos.
Oh, good. Oh, good. And of course, my boss will love it in the morning when I'm half asleep, because I was up late all night talking to Gabe.
You're like, so I was up all late all night talking to Gabe, and your boss is like, who?
I'm going to blame Nikki.
Blame Nikki. Oh, no, we can always blame Nikki. She's not in the show, so blame her.
Blame Nikki.
I like that. Write it down as a note for tomorrow.
There you go.
But anyway, thank you again, Gregg.
Right,
Make sure you let everybody know where they could find you, where they can find Park Journey, and find all of your amazing coverage of the Halloween season. And past that as well.
Oh, yeah, of course. Parkjourney.com, Facebook, Park Journey, Instagram, Twitter, @Park_Journey, YouTube, Park Journey. Just Park Journey. We actually posted 15 videos from this past weekend's Puppet Up shows. Yeah.
Good God.
So there was like 45 minutes of Puppet Up footage that I had taken over Thursday and Friday. So some really great things that are intended for mature audiences only, but some really funny shit.
No, Puppet Up is probably one of the funniest shows at any of the theme parks.
I love it so
Pretty
much.
Incredible.
Yeah. But yeah, and we also have our maze videos from Fright Fest as well, if you want to, check those out as well.
Amazing. Thank you again. And thank you everybody for listening to this week's show. Thank you for tuning in for the Fright Fest review. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the show. And if you are, a free way to support the show is to head on over to iTunes, leave a 5-star review. It helps us out. It puts us up higher in the standings, and it makes it easier for everyone to enjoy us like you are right now. And if you want to follow us on social media, you can always find us at Theme Park Duo on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. We don't post as much on YouTube as Gregg does in Park Journey, but all of our podcasts go there, and occasionally we post some vlogging stuff as well, so you can definitely check that out. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or if you want to say like, hey, Gabe, go check out this haunt, we want to hear a review of it, let us know. You could always email us at themeparkduo@gmail.com. Once again, everybody, thank you so much for enjoying this week's show, and thank you for enjoying our nonsense. And always remember, there's always a great, big, beautiful tomorrow. See ya!
Thanks for riding with the Theme Park Duo. Make sure to gather all your belongings before the end of the podcast. Bye-bye.